I want to tell you something that took me a long time to say out loud. I was a high functioning woman who could not stay with herself during hard conversations. I could lead, I could perform, I could hold it together in every room that required me to be competent. And then someone I love would say something wrong or just the right thing, and I would completely disappear. Not physically, but everything inside me would freak out, while on the outside, I would completely shut down. I would go blank, my throat would tighten, I would apologize when I wasn't even wrong. I would apologize for how I felt. I would over explain to stop the distance from growing. I would replay one sentence for so many days, and I could not figure out why. Because I had done the work, I had been in therapy, I understood my patterns. I could even name my triggers in clinical language. I knew better, yet I couldn't do better in the moment. If this sounds familiar, then this is for you. My name is Mandi Gardner. I am the founder of Holistic Evolution Shala. I'm also the creator of regulation-based Ashtanga. But I didn't start here. I started on the mat in Salt Lake City back in the early 2000s. I was introduced to Ashtanga yoga by Sarah Jane at the front. I did not know what I was stepping into. I just knew something about the structure of the practice held me in a way that nothing else had. I practiced Bikram's yoga for about 10 years, and then I was seeking more advanced teachers. So I started practicing the advanced ghost style yoga. And then I was also practicing the Mysore style or self-led style Ashtanga yoga. I really studied and I began to teach. I kept coming back to my mat even when I couldn't really express why it was helping me so much. In February of 2018 is when I fully committed to the Ashtanga method. And something shifted, not in a dramatic way, but a daily, accumulated way. I started to notice that the woman who showed up to her mat every morning, consistent, disciplined, and present, was different from the woman who walked into hard conversations later that day. More grounded, more available to herself, less likely to disappear. I did not have the language for it yet, but I was watching my nervous system change in real time. In 2021, after learning what my mother suffers from, which is considered emotional dysregulation disorder, also known as borderline personality disorder, when I found that out, I really sought to learn more. I really sought out help and to understand. So I started studying DBT or dialectical behavior therapy skills, specifically mindfulness and interpersonal effectiveness skills. And this was the really big light bulb moment for me. DBT taught me something that no amount of yoga or therapy had ever made fully clear. When you are dysregulated or triggered, right, your rational brain is literally not available. This is not a metaphor, it is physiology, right? It is the part of the brain that accesses language, reasoning, and relational skill. It literally goes offline under emotional activation. And no amount of insight, awareness, or good intentions can override that in the moment. You cannot think your way through being triggered. You cannot think your way through a conversation when you are dysregulated or triggered. This was the most important thing for me to understand because I had been doing exactly that for years, because I had such a hard time expressing myself, right? So in those moments of intense emotion and anger and frustration, right? That's when I felt like I got to get it out, right? But you are so triggered that you can't access your rational thinking mind. So you can literally go into these loops where you can't really solve anything and you just feel bad and you continue cycling through. And I know so many women who have struggled this way, where they say something or do something in the heat of the moment that they later regret, that later has profound impacts on their life, whether it is damaging relationships or severing relationships altogether. We are not failing at communication. We are failing at regulation, because no one has taught us that regulation was something we needed to train before the conversation happened. I will be honest about what my path looked like. It was definitely not linear. It started out with childhood trauma, and that moved into addiction and alcoholism. Later, it moved into relational collapse, where I kept going from failed relationship to failed relationship. The particular exhaustion of being a woman who holds everything together publicly while falling apart privately, that was me. Does this sound familiar to you? I have sat in therapy offices and I have walked out feeling more broken than when I walked in. I have done the healing work that felt like excavation, going deeper and deeper into the story of what happened without ever building the capacity to handle what was happening right now in the moment. What I needed was not more understanding. I needed training. And I needed a container that treated me like a capable woman, not a damaged one. Ashtanga gave me that container. The daily practice, the structure, the repetition, the quiet devotion of returning to the mat, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. I have also had the profound privilege of practicing in person with Sharath Joyce before his passing. That experience was profound in my life. It really deepened my understanding of what this lineage carries and what it asks of the student. Since the summer of 2025, I have continued my studies with Angela Jameson, a teacher of teachers whose work in this tradition has shaped how I understand what it means to hold space for a student inside a lineage that demands both precision and devotion. A teacher of teachers whose work in this tradition has shaped how I understand what it means to hold space for a student inside a lineage that demands both precision and devotion. I did not arrive at this work through a business plan. I arrived through my own personal practice, my own healing journey, in my own moments of staying, even when everything inside me was telling me to either run away or collapse. And I realized this is what women need: not more information, not more self-awareness, a trained nervous system, a daily practice, a method that works in real life, in real conversations, in the seconds before everything falls apart. That is what I set out to build. Holistic Evolution Shala is not a typical yoga studio. It is not a coaching brand. It is not a therapy practice. It is an institute for relational nervous system training. I train high functioning women to stay regulated inside the relationships that matter most through regulation-based Ashtanga. This is a method I developed that bridges body, behavior, and identity by integrating traditional self-led Ashtanga yoga with DBT-based mindfulness and interpersonal effectiveness skills, as well as ritualized daily repetition. This method exists for the woman who is intelligent, self-aware, and exhausted from knowing better without being able to do better in the moment. She leads teams or households. She's done the therapy. She understands her triggers intellectually, and she can still go blank mid-conversation. She still apologizes when she's not wrong. She still replays one sentence for hours or days. She still feels powerful professionally and fragile in intimacy. She is not broken. She is under-trained. And this is where that changes. My mission is this: to train high-functioning women to stay steady inside the emotionally charged moments that shape their relationships, their identities, and their lives. not through more insight and not through more processing, not through more understanding, even though that can help, but through disciplined, embodied nervous system training, practiced every single day. Because calm is not a personality, it is a trained capacity, and every woman deserves to build it. I train the gap between knowing and doing, between understanding your triggers and being able to stay present inside them, between the woman who collapses in intimacy and the woman who stays steady, grounded, and fully herself. This is the work. Train, stay, rise. I am building something that I believe will change lives for the positive. This is not a lifestyle brand, but it's a method. Regulation-based Ashtanga. It's codified, it's teachable, and it can change your life. I'm currently in a teacher training with Angela Jameson. I'm deepening my roots in the Ashtanga lineage so that what I teach is not just effective. It's true to the tradition that made it possible. I've practiced a lot of yoga, a lot of different styles of yoga. And this, the Ashtanga lineage, is the one that has taught me the most about yoga. So I encourage you to give it a try. My book, Rising, A Woman's Journey of Healing Through Rituals, is the emotional bridge into this work. The programs, the daily calm practice, and the practice assessment, and also the inner circle, are the training itself. My main program is the daily calm practice. And the best way to start is by doing the practice assessment, which is where we get to meet for 90 minutes so that I can see where you're at and how I can help you the most. So that way we can assess and clarify what your needs are and how we can move forward. A center for women who are done processing and are ready to train. A place where devotion is the practice and steadiness is the outcome. I built this work because I needed it first. I know what it costs, what it feels like to have to hold everything together. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the conversations that matter the most. And I know, because I've lived it, that it does not have to stay this way. You do not need to be fixed. You just need to be trained. And this is where it starts. I am Mandi Gardner. Welcome to Holistic Evolution Shala.